Welcome to your next lesson on bar and beverages. In this lesson, I wanted to spend a little time with you going over all of the options you have when it comes down to choosing what type of bar to host for your wedding reception. When picking alcohol, it is important to stop and think about your guest list for a moment. Are your uncles or dad big whiskey or scotch drinkers? If so, you'll want to make sure you have enough of that, or if your family loves throwing down margaritas, you'll want to make sure you have enough tequila, salt, and limes. It's important to think about where you'll be, when, and what the weather will be like. Because if you're having an outdoor wedding at a winery, then obviously people are going to tend to drink more wine than liquor or beer. So in this lesson, I'm going to walk you through the different types of bar setups, how many drinks you will need for your guests, the type of alcohol you may need, the type of mixers to supply for your beverages, the different glasses you will need along with how many to purchase or rent if needed, the number of servings of each type of beer, wine, or liquor will provide you, what you need to know about providing bartenders, insurance, as well as other important factors to keep in mind when deciding on your bar and beverage options for your wedding. So let's jump right in. Did you know that 68% of weddings have an open bar? With an open bar, the vendor generally includes everything from the liquor, beer, wine, drink mixers, sodas, garnishes, bar equipment, and accessories. You usually choose from house liquors or premium liquors and will pay a price per person for beverages, whether or not your guests consume alcohol. This is a good option for those couples whose guest lists contain heavy drinkers. Then we have your consumption bar. Instead of paying a per person price, you pay only for what soda, beer, wine, and liquor was consumed by your guests. The bartender usually keeps a tally of this, and it's a good option for those couples who don't have a lot of drinkers on their guest lists. With a cash bar, your guests will pay for their drinks individually when they go to the bar and order them. You, as the client, may only be responsible for the bartender or bartenders. This option, however, is almost never recommended for a wedding because if you choose to do so, please remember to make note of it on your invitation so guests are prepared and have cash on them to purchase drinks. Now let's go over the type of bar setups. Generally, there are 6 different types of bar setups for you to choose from. You have your soda, juice, iced tea, water, coffee, and tea. You have your signature drink bar setup. You have a beer only or wine only. You have beer and wine. You have beer, wine, and house liquor, or beer, wine, and premium liquor. So now that you get a better understanding of the types of bar setups that are available, how do you know how many drinks you might need if you're providing the alcohol yourself? Well, that's a good question. And the rule of thumb is the average wedding guest will drink 1 drink per hour. Keep in mind that some guests don't drink, some are light drinkers, and then there are some who are heavy drinkers. So an easy formula for you to follow would be to take the number of guests you have and times that by the number of hours of your reception, and that would give you a good estimate of how many drinks you will need. So, as you can see here, if you were having 100 guests at a 4-hour reception without a cocktail hour, you would need approximately 400 drinks. And if you also had a cocktail hour during your reception, you would need approximately 500 drinks for your guests. Now, moving right along. So if you know what type of setup you would like, you know how many drinks you need, but how many bottles and cases will you need to supply those beverages? Well, here's a little cheat sheet for you that shows you how many drinks come in a variety of alcoholic beverages. A keg of beer will serve approximately 165 12-ounce beers, not taking into account the foam or spillage, whereas a case of beer holds 24 12-ounce bottles. A standard 750 milliliter bottle of wine will provide you with approximately 4 6-ounce glasses or 3 8-ounce glasses, and the same goes for champagne. The standard 750 milliliter bottle of alcohol will provide you with 24 1-ounce pours, 16 1.5-ounce pours, which is the average pour that bartenders serve. So keep that in mind to let them know if you want 1.5-ounce pours or 1-ounce pours, which would stretch your liquor a little bit and save you some money. Again, it's free booze, so it's your call. It will also give you 12 2-ounce pours or 8 3-ounce on the rocks pours. Now, having been in the food industry as a waitress, bartender, and catering for nearly 2 decades, the amounts I have listed below are based on past experience. But of course, these amounts may vary depending on your guests' drinking habits, preferences, and the time of year. This is generally a guideline that will help you with your shopping list if you are purchasing your own beer and beverages. A case of wine serves about 20 to 30 guests for cocktail events with full bars. That is, unless most or all of your guests are wine drinkers. I would advise you to purchase 60% white and 40% red wine unless you know your guests prefer red wine. You will want more white wine in the summer and more red wine in the winter. And another good rule of thumb is red wine pairs well with red meat and white wine pairs well with chicken and fish. Generally, the same goes for beer, whereas it's a good idea to stock 60% light beer and 40% regular beer. So in this case, you would purchase a total of 1 case for every 15 to 20 guests. Obviously, if your guests are heavy drinkers or primarily drink beer, these amounts should increase. Only you know your family and friends. If they like imported beer more than domestic, get more imported. If they prefer white to red wine, order more white. If you're having a roaring 20s party and plan on serving martinis, you're going to want to make sure you have more gin and vodka over tequila and rum. And if no one drinks beer, you can replace each case of beer with 1 more bottle of liquor and 2 bottles of wine. So as you can see, these amounts would be for a 5-hour event versus a 4-hour one with beer, wine, and liquor. While the percentages remain the same as a 4-hour event, you're going to want to increase your cases of beer and wine and bottles of liquor. This chart represents what you'd want to purchase for a wedding that had beer and wine only for 4 hours. You'd want 1 case or 12 bottles of red wine, 1.5 cases or 18 bottles of white wine, 3.5 cases of beer, 2 domestic and 1.5 imported, and make sure at least one of the cases is a light beer. And the same goes here for a bar with beer and wine only for 5 hours. You would add a half a case of red, a half a case of white, and a half a case of beer. Again, remembering to adjust the types and quantity based on your guests' drinking habits. So let's go over the types of alcohol and popular drinks. Beer. When it comes to choosing beer, you basically have 2 options to choose from. A domestic beer like Budweiser, Bud Light, Busch, Michelob, Coors, Miller, Pabst, Rolling Rock, or Schlitz, to name a few. Domestic means it's brewed here in the United States, and then there's imported, like Heineken, Guinness, Beck's, Corona, Modelo, Dos Equis, Amstel, Harp, Newcastle, and Stella Artois, which are beers that are not brewed here in the United States, but are imported in from other countries for sale here in the United States. When it comes to wine, the most 2 popular types are red and white. The most common red wines are Cabernet Franc, Cabernet Sauvignon, Grenache, Malbec, Merlot, Pinot Noir, Syrah, and Zinfandel, with the most popular wines being Cabernet and Merlot. Even if you're not a wine drinker, guests will be happy to have a choice of either of these typical red wines. And then we have white wines, with the most common types being Chardonnay, Pinot Grigio, Riesling, Sauvignon Blanc, and Voigtner, along with the most popular wines being Pinot Grigio and Chardonnay. While there's certainly many types available, as you can see, you cannot go wrong with serving these 4 most popular types in bold. And if your guests are not huge wine drinkers and you want to provide one red and one white, my suggestion would be to offer a Cabernet as the red and a Chardonnay for the white. When it comes to champagne, there are 5 main types: Blanc de Blancs, Blanc de Noir, Brut, Demi-Sec, and extra dry. But you may want to do yourself a favor and skip it. Not many people drink champagne at weddings, even during the toasts, and people can cheers with anything, so you save yourself some money. Now, on the other hand, if you do wish to include it in your toasts, you'll want about 4 to 5 ounces per person per toast. As far as liquor is concerned, there are 7 major types: vodka, rum, gin, tequila, whiskey, bourbon, and scotch, with vodka, rum, and tequila being the 3 most popular. So if you're not aware of your guests' drinking preferences, you cannot go wrong with offering those 3 types. Again, vodka, rum, and tequila. Cordials. A cordial drink is any alcoholic beverage that contains a liqueur or cordial. A liqueur is a sweet distilled spirit with at least 2.5% sugar content. Most cordials are often flavored, and they begin as a neutral grain alcohol like a whiskey or a rum, and then sugar, herbs, fruit, nuts, and our spices are added. Cordials are often used in mixed drinks with soda or fruit juices, but they can be drank on their own over ice, with the most popular being absinthe, amaretto, Chambord, Contrao, Drambuie, Frangelico, Grand Marnier, Jägermeister, Kahlua, Limoncello, Rumchata, Sambuca, Southern Comfort, and Triple Sec. The average cost of liquor. Now, if you plan on providing your own alcoholic beverages for your reception, I've put together a reference list for you with the average cost for each liquor, giving you a low, mid, and high budget range. Brands of liquor are a matter of taste, and only you will know what your guests prefer. In my opinion, the most popular and generally most crowd-pleasing liquors are vodka. You can see Burnett's about $8, New Amsterdam $14, Tito's $20, and Grey Goose at $28. Again, remember, these are all the costs average of a 750 milliliter bottle. And then we have tequila. Montezuma being $9, Sauce Silver $15, Jose Cuervo at $18, and Patron at $52. Rum is going to run you $8 for Castillo, $15 for Bacardi, and $30 for Mount Gay. Gin, Seagram's, will cost about $10, Beefeaters at $23, and Hendrick's at $35. Your straight bourbon whiskeys, Benchmark number 8 being the cheapest at $11, Jim Beam at $15, Maker's Mark at $30, and Blanton's at $60. Tennessee whiskey, Jack Daniel's, will run you about $25. If you're looking for a rye whiskey, Bullet will run you about $30. For Canadian whiskey, Canadian Club $15, Seagram's VO $17, and Crown Royal at $30. And for those Scotch drinkers, Dewar's at about $27, Chivas Regal at $31, and Johnny Walker Black at $45. So now that you have a better idea of the types of beverages available and how many you will need, let's spend a minute going over the different mixers and garnishes you will need for those beverages. Juice. You'll need orange, grapefruit, and pineapple, about 1 quart for every 30 to 40 guests. Cranberry juice, again 1 quart for every 10 to 15 guests. Sodas, you'll want regular Coke, 1.5 cases for every 50 guests. Diet Coke, Sprite, and ginger ale, you'll want 1 case of each for every 50 guests. Club soda, about 1 liter for every 15 to 20 guests. And tonic, 1 liter for every 20 to 30 guests. Some other mixers besides juice and soda you want to consider are vermouth, sweet and dry, 1 small bottle of each for martinis and Manhattans. You'll want some bitters, 1 small bottle for old fashions, martinis, and Manhattans. Red Bull, which is optional, and if you offer Red Bull, make sure to increase the vodka. And triple sec. You'll need about 1 bottle, and triple sec is an orange flavored liqueur. Now, if you're hosting your wedding in a venue that provides all of your beverages, you may not need any mixers or garnishes. But if you plan to host your own bar, you'll definitely want to not forget about these garnishes to go with your drinks. For every 50 people, you will want to provide 2 oranges and a little bit more if you're serving Blue Moon or Shock Top, 3 lemons, 6 limes, which you'll want to increase that amount if you plan on serving Corona. You'll need a small jar of cocktail olives, also optional unless you plan on serving Gibson's. You'll want a small jar of maraschino cherries, and you'll want rimming salt and sugar, which again is optional in the case that you're serving margaritas. For your accessories, let's face it, unless you're pouring your beverages straight into red Solo cups, you can't make mixed drinks without the following equipment. You need a paring knife to cut the fruit with, a peeler for twists of fruit, a cocktail spoon to stir drinks before serving, a corkscrew to open wine bottles with, a bottle opener to open the beer, a juice squeezer for the fruit, a shaker to mix the drinks in, a jigger to measure the amount of liquor going into the drink, cocktail napkins to hold the drink with, toothpicks, glasses, ice, cups, and bowls for garnishes. Now let's move on to the type of glassware you'll need, whether you're renting or buying them. First is your 9-ounce all-purpose wine glass. Although it's 9 ounces, wine is usually poured at 6 ounces. Then we have the 9 to 14-ounce highball glasses, and those are used for mixed drinks like vodka and club or rum and coke. Next is your 6 to 10-ounce martini glasses for, you guessed it, martinis. These are optional if you don't plan on offering martinis, but it's always a good idea to have about a dozen or so on hand in case somebody would like a martini or a Manhattan. Then you have your rocks glasses for drinks that are poured straight up or on the rocks, like bourbon and scotch, amongst other drinks. And finally, your 2-ounce shot glasses. Again, optional if you don't plan on serving shots at the wedding. And some places do not allow it. So if you're hosting your own bar at home that allows you to bring in your own alcohol and bartender, if you're not hosting it there, then you're going to want to make sure with them first before wasting your money on shot glasses that you can in fact offer shots. It's also worth mentioning that if your budget is a concern, you may want to offer your beverages in heavy-duty disposable cups because you'll want to have 2 to 3 glasses per person, and at an average of 45 cents per glass, you can save $100 to $200 right there depending on your guest count just by using disposables at the bar. Now, for those brides that are hosting their wedding at a venue, you'll want to keep in mind that if your venue provides bar service, you can expect with an open bar, unlimited mixed drinks, beer, wine, and non-alcoholic beverages. And for an open bar, you're going to be charged per person. If you choose a cash bar, your guests will pay out of pocket for all of their drinks, like soda, beer, wine, and liquor. The average open bar costs about, for 4 hours for beer and wine, $18 a person, house liquors $22, premium $28, and if you had a 5-hour reception, you can expect to pay $21 a person for beer and wine, $26 for house liquor, and $32 for a premium liquor bar. If you choose to only do wine service, your vendor may charge you a corkage fee of $1 to $5 per bottle. Bartenders. A general rule of thumb is you'll need 1 bartender for every 50 to 75 guests and 1 barback for every 100. This will also depend on how many bars you'll be having and the location of the bar setup. Most places will charge you the cost of the bartender plus a setup fee and gratuity of about 15 to 20%. If you're not hosting your own bar or using your own bartenders, you'll want to be sure to ask your venue or caterer if the gratuity for the bartender is included in the contracted price or not. so that number one, you don't pay twice for gratuity, and number two, you don't forget to tip them if it's not included. Insurance. If you're providing your own alcohol, you're likely not going to be covered by your caterer's liquor liability policy. No one likes to think or talk about the potential for alcohol-related incidences, especially not at a wedding. However, if you're serving people drinks and something awful happens, sadly, you could be on the line. If someone crashes a car, falls off a balcony, or damages a property, or if that underage third cousin sneaks in some drinks and gets sick, the host could be held liable. It's terrible to think about, but even worse to get sued. If the couple or parents are homeowners, you can usually put a rider on the homeowner's policy for the event. Otherwise, there are tons of insurance companies that specialize in event insurance to choose from. So let's discuss for a moment a little more about insurance and who's responsible for providing it. All bartenders will need to be covered with liability insurance. If the venue or caterer is providing the alcohol, they will need to provide the insurance coverage. If you provide a bartender or your own liquor, beer, or wine, you will need to provide the venue with the license and insurance. If you hire a private bartender, they will need to provide the venue with a license and liability insurance certificate. The average cost of liquor liability insurance is about $100 for a single event for liquor liability only, and $150 for a single event with general liability and liquor liability. And I cannot stress this enough to my brides. Make sure before signing a contract that you ask to see proof of their liquor liability insurance first to make sure you'll be covered in the event that anything happens, so you're not left on the hook if something does. Listen, people like to drink at weddings. It's a joyous celebration, and more often than not, people are having more than they normally would, and the risk of someone getting hurt increases greatly, so make sure you're covered. What's trending? 5 of the most popular trends right now in bar and beverage for weddings are 1, saving money by offering a signature drink instead of having the many various options of beer, wine, and liquor. Using mason jars to serve your drinks in. But keep in mind, if you're using mason jars, they will require larger servings and more alcohol. Seasonal drinks like rum punch in the summer and a bourbon cocktail in the winter. Pimping out your drinks like adding lots of garnishes and dressing up the bar and the bartender. And offering a mocktail. And mocktails are non-alcoholic drinks consisting of a mixture of fruit juices or other soft drinks served in a fancy glass to look like a cocktail, like a virgin pina colada or daiquiri. Beverage money-saving tips. Now, if your budget is a concern and you're looking to save some money on your bar and beverages, here are a few tricks that could save you some major money. Hosting an open bar with beer and wine only, or offering a signature drink. Skipping the champagne toast. Very few people ever actually drink the champagne. Ask if you can bring in your own alcohol. This way, you're only paying for the product and not their retail markup. Paying for a corkage fee. If you've never heard the phrase corkage fee before, what it means is that a venue will allow you to bring in your own wine and then you charge a fee. They charge you a fee per bottle for your server to open the bottle, bring it to temperature, serve it in the appropriate stemware, and refill them as necessary. Corkage fees vary by venue, but are a great option for wine lovers because although they may charge you a corkage fee, you'll save big money on being able to return any unopened bottles. And lastly, you'll want to shop at a discount beverage store. You can save big money buying beer, wine, and alcohol in larger quantities. And some will even allow you to return your unopened bottles so you don't waste any money on your beverages.